gone through a divorce, and the divorce lasted about 2 years. We have 3 children. I don't want to get into details about that, but it was messy. But after that, after being a stay-at-home mom and wife for 23 years, 23 long years, I was all of a sudden a divorced single woman out on my own in a somewhat foreign state with not a whole lot of friends and no family. And I was trying to survive. I had recently gotten my CNA because I was going to start school for the RN program until my divorce got in the way. So I was left being a CNA, which I don't know if many of you know a whole lot about CNAs. You work your butt off, but you don't make a whole lot of money. And I definitely didn't make enough money to really get by on my own. At the time, we had one child that was still a minor, my son. So anyhow, it was about 2 years after my divorce. We were renting a room from somebody, and I really wanted to get my own place for my son and I, instead of having to stay in a room all the time. And so there was a Craigslist post that I saw one weekend when my son was away at his dad's house. And the Craigslist post was for a studio for rent in exchange for helping out on the property with a small animal rescue. Which, if you knew me, you would know animals are like my life. I love animals, almost more than people. And so the guy had gotten a ton of calls, and I'm not going to go into a whole lot of details about what took place. But I will try to get the gist of it out. The man had gotten a ton of calls. It was on the outskirts of town in a really nice area on property. And I told him my circumstances, and he said that he had just gotten a day-old baby alpaca that he was bottle feeding. And right then, that's all that mattered to me, was seeing this baby alpaca. So he said that I could come up. It was a Saturday. I could come up and I could check out the place, and we could talk and see if it was something that I would be interested in doing. He also did outdoor weddings. He rented out part of his property for outdoor weddings in the summertime. So, being that it was a legit business, I figured I was pretty safe. Normally I'm a chicken because I don't trust people, but I felt like, being that there was a business also on the property, that nobody would jeopardize their business to do any sorts of foul play per se. And so I was so excited. I got in my car, hauled butt up there. He had the day-old baby alpaca, and he was getting ready to bottle feed the baby alpaca. And asked if I wanted to do it. So of course, I was so excited. I made a mess everywhere trying to feed this baby alpaca. But what I didn't realize, in the midst of me feeding this baby, he had put 2 different types of illegal date rape type drugs into my soda that I had brought with me and that was sitting off to the side. Of course, I didn't see him do anything at all, and I continued trying to feed this baby alpaca. And then we started walking around the property, and he was showing me where they did the outdoor weddings. And he even had this big old English Mastiff dog that was with him that I just adored. She was so cute and so sweet. And it just, besides him being older and kind of rugged looking, I just kept telling myself that this was a business and I need to just not be such a big weenie. So we continued up the property, went up to the house, this big house at the top of the property. It was like 10 acres. And he did have some alpacas on the farm and pigs and chickens, and I think there were a few goats, but mostly pigs and alpacas. We got up to the house, and as we were talking, and he was telling me what he was looking for, and I was telling him my situation, I started to feel dizzy, very dizzy. And then that's the last thing I remember. I woke up 15 hours later in his bed with nothing on but a pair of socks that were inside out. I couldn't remember anything. I think I was still half drugged and half in shock as I tried to get my clothes on as fast as I could and get to my car without running into him. And thank God, that's exactly what happened. I have no clue where he was, probably out on his property somewhere. But I know it was definitely God that got me down off that huge mountain onto the freeway to the emergency room drive-through safely. Because to this day, I don't really remember the driving part. I just remember getting myself to the hospital. 2 detectives showed up, and after several hours of talking to them, doing DNA, doing a rape kit, treating me for STDs or anything else that I could possibly have gotten, but still not knowing if I had been raped. Of course, if you do the math, you can pretty much guess. But I was, I still had a glimmer of hope coming out of a 23-year marriage. I wasn't one that got around ever. I married basically my high school sweetheart, a boy who I grew up with since the age of 12, actually. And anyhow, the detectives told me that they knew of this guy. He had been in prison. He had done this to 2 other women, but they were afraid to press charges. I, of course, wanted to press charges, most definitely. And from there on, we had to wait 7 months. 7 months. 7 months. 7 months for the rape kit to come back from the forensic labs. And until it came back, no arrests were made because they wanted to be able to get him good and not screw up and have him get away. So they wanted to have all their ducks in a row, per se. And in the meantime, I was petrified, not knowing if he was going to come after me, or if I was safe, or if he was going to run and get away, or what was going on. Of course, they did a search warrant. They found the illegal drugs, but they still didn't arrest him. Of course, he denied everything. And then a few more months went by, and I realized that he had put his place up for sale. And so I told the detectives, because I was freaking out that he was going to sell his place and get away and not have to suffer any consequences for his actions. And they reassured me that they were keeping an eye on him. Hang on, I need a drink. And so I trusted them and knew they weren't going to let that happen. So anyways, fast forward to 7 months. Everything came back, and of course, I had been raped. The 2 different types of date rape type drugs were found in my system. And from there, they were going to press charges, send everything over to the DA's office, issue a warrant, and arrest him. And I think there was 3 additional charges besides rape that they were going to get him on. So a few weeks went by, and I hadn't heard back from the DA's office or the detectives. And basically, long story short, I had a hard time getting a hold of them because they hadn't been watching him as good as they should have been. And he had sold his house and moved to Thailand, where they wouldn't extradite him. They wouldn't pay the money to extradite him back to this state to press charges. To this day, there is a $250,000 warrant out for his arrest, which, if he's smart, he won't come back because he knows he'll be arrested. And so therefore it was almost like being drugged and raped all over again. The shock and the trauma of knowing that somebody could do something like this and turn around and go live their dream life in Thailand, and is probably doing the same thing over there to girls and women, no doubt. Once the shock and the devastation wore off, I just became so angry because I felt like the sheriff's department and the detectives had totally let me down. I felt like they should have been able to have at least pulled his passport to make sure that he couldn't run off. But anyway, it is what it is, and at that point point in time, I became homeless because I didn't work. My son was now staying at his dad's house pretty much full time. I ended up living in my car for several long months. I didn't, being that I was a stay-at-home mom and we were somewhat still new in this state, what time we had been up here, I stayed home with my kids. Excuse me. So I didn't have friends, especially friends who were going to take me in and help me get back on my feet again and get through everything. So yeah, I was in my car. I couldn't sleep. I finally started losing weight, which I wasn't bummed about that because I had gotten to the point to where I wasn't comfortable with myself. But I was just slowly going downhill. Like I said, I couldn't sleep. I didn't trust anyone. All I did was think about everything that had taken place and how could I have been so unlucky and how could this have happened, and all of those self-destructing thoughts. The doctors tried to give me different types of sleeping pills or sleeping prescription medication. Nothing really worked. They would knock me out for like an hour, but I would wake back up and then I'd be up all night thinking again, nonstop. And the other worst part during this time was that I didn't have my son. And I think any mom out there knows that you just do better, it seems like, when you have your children with you. At least that's the case for me. I always did better when I had my son around, or my other two, but they were over 18. So anyways, it was just like a big double whammy of hell. And then I had talked to somebody someday and they told me about ASMR. And they explained how, when you're a kid and a certain teacher's talking and you just zone out into that la la land to where it just kind of puts you to sleep. Or when somebody's whispering in your ear and it gives you the goosebumps or the chills, or when somebody plays with your hair. And I instantly knew exactly what they were talking about because I had all of that, especially when I was a kid. I remember so many teachers, even the Sunday school teacher at church. Just that mushy feeling that you feel that just kind of knocks you out. And so I got on YouTube and just saw a plethora of everything from food eating to tapping to doing hair to, all of those different ASMR triggers. And so I went and bought some headphones. At the time I was giving plasma, and so I had a little bit of money for gas and food. And so I got some cheap headphones and decided to try it out. And I learned really quickly that just hearing some of the different creators talk, especially whisper, would just put me back into that zone, and the crisp wetness with the different microphones that they use. I just couldn't believe how close it was to bringing you back to when you were a kid, listening to those teachers talk. And that's when I discovered that this was knocking me out. And when I would I'd fall asleep with the headphones on, I wouldn't wake back up. And if I did wake back up, it would still be on the instant play, or where the all play, where it just keeps playing one video after another. And I realized that I was finally starting to sleep a lot more than I used to. And the feeling and the energy behind that made a big difference in my thought process and the way I was feeling. But also, I started listening to a lot of personal attention and affirmations videos, and it actually helped me. Of course, I had been seeing a counselor, which I've seen counselors throughout the years, and I could probably counsel somebody. In fact, I'm sure I could. It's just, you know those things, but if you don't put them into place and make them a part of your life, you're stuck. And at that point I was stuck. But it seemed like through ASMR, I wasn't stuck anymore. And it was almost like I had a couple of friends out there and a couple people or creators who did care. And it just gave me that boost that I didn't have for all those months. And that's when I finally found a CNA job, found a room for rent, got back on my feet again, started feeling a little more positive about life. Still to this day, it's been a few years now, and to this day I try not to think about it much, because if I do get upset and I do get angry, because there was no consequences for anyone's actions. I'm the only one left that suffered the consequences. And I was left feeling like the detectives in the sheriff's department didn't care as much as I thought they did, I guess. And at least that they didn't care enough to pull his passport and make sure that he didn't move like they promised me they were doing. And so that's hard, knowing that nobody suffered any consequences, and especially the monster that did this, thinking that it's okay to do these kinds of things. He needs to be stopped. And I just pray that somehow or another he's stopped, somehow or another. Be it that he gets caught over there, or he comes back here. He just needs to be in prison. Of course, I no longer get on Craigslist anymore. I don't talk about this with a lot of people, so it's uncomfortable for me. But I wanted to share for other people out there who may be going through the same thing or something different, but have been left with the same feelings and the same trauma and anger and all of those crappy feelings that come along with it, and hope that they don't feel so alone, just like I did back then, until I found ASMR. And I've been obsessed with ASMR ever since. My life is pretty good now. The hardest thing that I was left with was my son continued to stay with his father. And that was really hard. Because a mother wants to raise their child. But he's happy. He's doing great. He's almost an adult now. He's going to join the Air Force. And I'm so proud of him. Because a lot of kids who go through so much in their young lives don't turn out so great. I'm not saying that they turn out bad, but I think you understand. He holds no anger. He understands as best as he can. God, I feel like I've said about 200 times in this video, so I apologize. So anyhow, I just wanted to share my story in hopes that it can help somebody. I apologize that I haven't been on in a few weeks, but as you know, I work full-time and I don't have a whole lot of time to record videos. So I hope you understand, but I am making time. Even if it kills me, I'm gonna make time. So all these years later, I wish I would have done it a few years ago when I wanted to, but I kept putting it off, to start an ASMR channel myself. And that the story is one of the main reasons why I decided to start a channel, so that I can kind of pay it forward in a sense and give back to even one person out there who might be struggling. Then what I'm doing is worth it. So I may not be the best ASMR artist, but I'm still learning as time goes by. And I plan on being around for a long time and making more and more content for you guys to enjoy. shot to start thinking positive, 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 positive thoughts, 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 thoughts. stay safe. Take care of you and yourself. And I hope you have a great rest of your week. I hope you're productive and that everything is okay, and that you're okay, and that you're okay. And until my next video,